Rose Conway-Walsh.
Grant, Gurmahagat Kahirlak, and thank you for the presentations. I'm very familiar with the work of Community Foundation Ireland. Indeed, we've done some projects in Mayo with that, and some cross-border ones as well. It's been a while now. But one thing I suppose that struck me out, because working in community development, sometimes when you're applying for funding, there's a whole lot of bureaucracy, and I've always found the Community Foundation to be absolutely accountable, and accountability worked into it, but not too bureaucratic. So I would encourage organisations here to avail of the really good opportunities under all of the different funding strands that you have. I'd like to see more use, I suppose, being made of that. There was two challenges, I suppose, around the two things specifically I want to ask you, and one is around the government mainstreaming of projects, because you get some really good innovative projects, but then many of them just stop there. So what ideas you would have around mainstreaming them and and what we could do as a committee, indeed, to encourage government to match fund and to mainstream those projects, so that the benefits wouldn't be just for the people who benefit from the initial project. And my other one is in relation to later, as part of the Good Friday Agreement Committee today, we have representations coming in, we have witnesses talking to us about the challenges for former prisoners, for ex-prisoners, not only for them, but for their children, their grandchildren, and their extended families. And in the course of your work, have you done anything in relation to that, or is there anything planned in the future that you could that you could support that type of work? I think it's quite shocking in looking at their presentation going forward in terms of their travel restrictions, their employment restrictions, their insurance restrictions, and all of those things. So there's real civil rights and human rights issues there that I think need to be dealt with, and we need to deal collectively with that. And I apologise in advance because I have to actually a flight to catch, but if you could maybe address those two things and then maybe go on to Mickey, if that's okay. Is that okay, Mickey? If we have enough time.
Thanks very much, and it's great to see you. I suppose a couple of things. You're absolutely right. So at Community Foundation, I suppose two things that we do when we're working with donors: we make sure that we mind the due diligence and that we take the best care that we can of the assets that they entrust us with. But on the other hand, we really understand that for communities, they're really up against it. And so we want to honour that, but we also want to have as light a touch as we can. So we're always thinking about the application process, how we can improve it. And also we're always at the end of the phone if people need support in applying to us. So I'm glad that you've noticed that about us, because it is our intention. We do a lot of work with prisoners. One of the groups is looking at prisoners' rights together. And we also do a lot of work in the Republic with the Penal Reform Trust. So we will have a rolling fund, and I suppose what we would hope to do is bring more investment. So if there are issues that people want us to consider and address, we'd be delighted to. We have an open door. We hope to keep a small rolling fund for issues that emerge while we're doing the open grant rounds. So I hope that answers the questions.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, do you want to bring in Mickey now?
Yes, Ciarán, thank you very much. And thanks very much for the presentation, and it's good to see Paddy Kelly again. I haven't seen her for a while. So my question really is in relation to funding, because there's a tranche of Piece 4 funding coming on board, I think, by the end of this month. But that may be at risk because it has to be signed off by the North-South Ministerial Conference. And of course, the DUP have threatened to pull out of those meetings. So I'm just wondering, do you feel that funding like that may be put at risk because of this situation? Thank you.
Do you want us to answer them each time, Chair?
Whatever you're comfortable with. plenty of time, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Well, actually, I just the question came up with the previous speaker as well in relation to match funding and what the committee can do. And I think funding, as the two committee members have highlighted, is an issue. This is a very agile and flexible fund, and really was to encourage partnership, new and existing partnerships, to think and to see how they might work across the island on particular issues. There's no doubt that we will need more funding going forward, and one of the asks of the committee would be to really encourage match funding. There's no doubt that we can leverage more funding into the fund if match funding were available. Groups have already said to us that they will have ongoing requirements to work together, that this is kind of phase one, and they're very interested in seeing where that might be realised. So they're considerations that we're thinking about all the time. But certainly for us, in terms of the new policy on philanthropy, it would be fantastic that match fund across government departments would be considered as part of that. And then obviously the focus for this fund would be applicable. Paddy, I don't know if you want to add to that.